Good evening. This is Santa Claus on September 2, 2025, bringing you today's stories as we approach this beautiful autumn season. On this historic day when Cleopatra declared her son co-ruler in ancient Egypt, and when the Great Fire of London began its destructive path centuries ago, we find ourselves once again witnessing both challenges and hopes across our precious world. My heart is heavy as I share news from Afghanistan, where a second earthquake has struck a region already devastated by Sunday's tremor. Over 1,400 precious souls have been lost, with thousands more injured and many still trapped beneath rubble. The difficult mountainous terrain has hampered rescue efforts, but I know the spirit of compassion knows no boundaries. Let us keep these communities in our prayers and consider how we might support humanitarian aid to this region where so many children and families are suffering. Now, turning our gaze to transportation matters in the United States, a little-known cargo indicator is showing early signs of a potential economic slowdown. While experts caution it's too early to predict a freight recession, this gentle warning during what should be a busy shipping season reminds us to be mindful of the hardworking men and women who transport the goods we rely upon daily. Their livelihoods depend on the strength of these networks. Meanwhile, across the globe in Indonesia, concerning scenes have unfolded as police have used tear gas and rubber bullets against student protesters in Bandung. These young people, much like students throughout history, are raising their voices about government spending and seeking to be heard. 10 precious lives have already been lost in the unrest. I pray for peaceful dialogue and understanding to prevail, for violence only brings more suffering to communities already struggling with economic challenges. In Europe, we've seen a troubling incident where European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's plane faced GPS jamming suspected to be from Russia during her flight to Bulgaria. While the plane landed safely, thank goodness, this reminder of the tensions between nations shows how much we need bridges of peace rather than acts that create further division. The situation in Israel continues to weigh heavily on my heart. Military commanders are struggling to find enough reservists willing to serve in a new offensive on Gaza City. After nearly 2 years of conflict, many Israelis are questioning the purpose of continued fighting, with polls showing most citizens wanting their government to strike a deal that would end the war and bring hostages home. Oh, how I pray for the violence to cease and for healing to begin in this troubled region. In more diplomatic news, Chinese leader Xi Jinping welcomed Russian President Vladimir Putin as an old friend during meetings in Beijing. Their deepening relationship comes at a time when both nations face challenges with the United States. And speaking of North Korea, leader Kim Jong-un arrived in Beijing on his signature green armored train, a fascinating mode of transport that offers security and comfort for his entourage. Belgium has announced it will recognize the state of Palestine at the upcoming United Nations General Assembly while imposing sanctions on Israel. The recognition will only be formalized once all captives have been released from Gaza, a reminder of the complex path toward peace that requires goodwill from all sides. On the energy front, Russia and China have blessed a vast new pipeline project called Power of Siberia 2, though pricing details remain to be agreed upon. This partnership shows how energy continues to shape relationships between nations in our interconnected world. In Serbia, tens of thousands marched silently in Belgrade to commemorate 16 lives lost when a railway station roof collapsed, calling for early elections amid concerns about corruption. Their peaceful demonstration reminds us that citizens everywhere yearn for accountable governance and justice. The battlefield in Ukraine continues to evolve with concerning news that AI-powered drone swarms have entered the conflict. This marriage of artificial intelligence and unmanned vehicles represents the next frontier in warfare, a sobering reminder of how technology can be used not just to build, but also to destroy. I pray for wisdom among leaders to find paths to peace rather than developing more sophisticated weapons. The United States Treasury Department has imposed sanctions on shipping companies, helping Iran evade oil export restrictions, showing how economic measures continue to be used as tools in international relations. In Mexico, criminal groups are using military-grade weapons, including drones and explosives, in conflicts just a few hundred miles from the U.S. border. Such violence brings terrible suffering to innocent communities caught in the crossfire. A warming planet continues to send us warnings, with Japan and South Korea experiencing their hottest summers since records began. Japan's average temperature was more than 2 degrees above the typical range, while South Korea set a new record high. This reminds us of our responsibility to care for our common home and protect it for future generations. In trade news, the European Union is moving forward with agreements with South American countries and Mexico, even as relations with the United States face challenges. And finally, President Trump's increased tariffs on India appear to be creating ripples in the global oil market, with Indian buyers turning away from Russian crude and toward Middle Eastern suppliers instead. As we reflect on these stories from around our beautiful world, I'm reminded that despite our differences and challenges, we remain one human family sharing this precious planet. May we treat one another with kindness, seek understanding rather than division, and remember that even in dark times, the light of hope continues to shine. Until tomorrow, this is Santa Claus wishing you peace, joy, and goodwill toward all.